I'm delighted to welcome Thaleia Efthymiadou, commercial lead at CyrusOne, specialising in data centre infrastructure, to this week's episode of Capstone Talent Talk podcast. With a background in civil and structural engineering and a master's in sustainable restoration, Thaleia has carved a distinctive path through the built environment and digital infrastructure sectors. Currently playing a pivotal commercial role with CyrusOne in Germany, she's driven projects across multiple geographies. Thaleia, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a great occasion to meet you here. And also thanks a lot for inviting me to a podcast called Talent Talk, because obviously I'm very keen to also discuss about my career path. And it was a great opportunity also to meet with other talents and to share different opinions. So thanks a lot. A great podcast for me. Thanks.
No problem. So talk to us about your career. Tell us how it started, how you got into the space.
Yeah, I think that my career is actually driven by two main factors. The first one is my big love for maths. So already from school period, all my studies were focused on maths, progress, and physics. And this led my decision to become a civil engineer. So I completed 5-year studies, as you described, in civil engineering back to Greece with a focus on structural engineering. And then I also did 2 years master's to renovation and rehabilitation of historical monuments and landscapes. And this actually was a really interesting change, let's say, from the core structural engineering to something that includes different disciplines like the restoration of buildings, because it gave me the opportunity to develop my teamwork skills. So when you go for a restoration project, you need to discuss with authorities, you have to liaise with the architects, to run a land survey. I also got involved with BIM modeling and 3D laser scanning of existing buildings. So I think it was a mix of knowledge with skills that came at an early stage at through my studies. And then obviously the second factor that affected my career was the social and economic situation in Greece at the period that I finished my studies. So I graduated on 2014 at a period where there was almost no new developments or new construction projects at the area where I come from in North Greece. And this, of course, impacted a lot the effort that I had to put into things and career progress, but also activated me a lot on studying the market and forecasting what the future needs, and obviously what I would expect from myself. So I finished my master's, my 2 years master's on 2016. While I was working in parallel as industrial lead project manager back to Greece. And then I saw that there was no salary increase, or there was no career progress, there was no seniority, let's say, major seniority or serious or very major organogram to the projects, because actually the projects were of a very small size. So I said to myself that investing 7 years to studies, it was a lot. And so that I wanted to be exposed to an environment with more opportunities, innovation, different job descriptions. And this is how London came up. I would say that it took me only 3 weeks to change country.
Wow.
So I just started reading many job descriptions. The markets are totally different. Even markets with similar size, like UK and Central Europe can have significant differences on the job descriptions and the skill sets required. And this can depend on the type of projects, the type of the contracts, the size, obviously, even the location, and of course, the legislation. So I decided that I want to move to UK, and obviously the quantity surveying there in UK, the risk partnership, the commercial sector is pretty much more developed and more separate to the project management, while in other countries like Greece, the project manager also runs the commercial and contractual function. So that led me to moving to London within a period of 3 weeks, let's say, and taking my first job as an MEP quantity surveyor. I think that my previous experience as industrial lead helped me, because industrial buildings have a lot of underfloor cooling systems and complicated interfaces with insulations. So I had an idea of reports and engineering parameters and things like that a project has to meet. And then for me, becoming a commercial MEP quantity surveyor, it was a very nice combination of engineering background to commercial sector, because I could dive into value engineering exercises, optimization of projects through cash flows that are actually calculated by hand based on the actual program. Logistics concepts, let's say innovation and things like that. After spending then 4 years in London, obviously I moved from an MEP quantity surveyor position then to Barclay Group, which was an amazing experience for me. I spent there almost 3 years at St. James and William London South. I had the luck to join iconic projects like the Prince of Wales Drive and Kings Road Park. I was the only MEP managing surveyor for St. James and William at that period. So I had the chance to get involved to phasing strategies, energy phasing, to build all the scope of works with our MEP project managers, and get to know all the details about sections and how we work on MEP contracts. And then what made me move to Germany, I think it was more the discussions with contractors and my own willingness and my own dreams of always moving to a more innovative sector. So it was 5 years ago approximately when I first heard about data centers. And I know I have already completed like 5 of them, but yes, only 5 years ago I got to know what is a data center. Mainly from the big MEP contractors that I worked with. So when I was tendering, I was asking what other projects have you worked on, and they were describing data centers across Europe and so on. And then I said, okay, and why are data centers so important, or why is there such a development and incident of the market, and why would I want to move to that sector? I think it's the heavy MEP background, obviously, that adds a lot of, let's say, value and obviously demands to the profile and skill set of people to get involved with the sector. And yes, then Frankfurt and Germany, I would say, is a major hub in Europe, in Central Europe, for data centers. If we compare it, we would say it's the London of Central Europe to data centers. There was a high, let's say, demand on commercial people here. And obviously working for a contractor, because I came here working for Mercury, which is a leader contractor on data centers. would give me exposure to knowledge, subcontractors management, and scope gap analysis, and so on. So yeah, I try to give you a very holistic overview of my path. But if we would like to conclude it, I would say that it didn't really start from my graduation. It was a path that was built from my early years at school through maths and physics, and now it's here where we sit at CyrusOne commercial lead role. Yeah.
What an interesting pathway, Thaleia, and
Yeah.
and it's interesting to think, you know, those sort of moves that you've made. I mean, because you've
Mhm.
moved countries and roles and all of those sorts of things.
Mhm.
And I suppose, you know, it's quite common for there to be other influences along the way, and sometimes those are people, sometimes those, you mentioned even, you know, some of the economic situation in Greece at the time that kind of led you to sort of think about maybe other opportunities and things like that.
Mhm.
It was beyond those sorts of things, were there people along the way that kind of, you mentioned talking about, you know, contractors and things, talking to contractors and through tendering processes and learning
Mhm.
about data centers and things like that. Were there any sort of forms of influence there along the way as well that you kind of helped to kind of take some of those leaps to different countries and different sectors?
Yeah, that's a really nice question, because it's always important to have some reference points to our career. Yeah, I would say that I was mostly impacted by my first, let's say, employer in Greece. Because it was a really small company, my relationship with him was very close, and he was a kind of mentor to me. So he had two main characteristics. Efficiency, so he was pushing me to give calls and to never leave a meeting or a room if there is no decision and handshake made. Okay. And the second one of his characteristics, that he was very success focused, and success doesn't always mean money or a better, more senior role. It means that we learn something out of our position, of a meeting, that there is always a nice lesson learned from out of its process. Okay. So this mostly drove my decisions on my career paths, because I wanted always to learn through my roles, and I wanted to be efficient, and this is what then drove my skill set as a leader, because obviously at the first paths of your career, you're an engineer, you're a quantity surveyor. Then once the umbrella of management opens and you develop, I started focusing on my soft skills and strategies, and keeping people happy, giving opportunities, how I would like to be treated, and so on. And then, yes, as you said, as you mentioned, only the second part is the market and what others are doing. Okay, so for me, it's important not to compete, but to remain competitive. So always I check on LinkedIn profiles of people that I would like to be like, or the skill sets that I would like to have to adopt and develop. And I try to, let's say, take all the necessary actions to be able to develop myself. And as part of that, it was also the conversations with the contractors and the subcontractors. What are they doing better? How do they keep their cash on for their businesses? Because at the end of the day, even as on a personal level, we are all a small company. We are a small organization. Okay, we have our workflow, our personal workflow. We carry our culture, and then we have to fit into this society, in this working environment, and develop with it, and give and take the best out of it. Yeah.
And what have you found in terms of the differences and the changes of nuance from working in the contractor and the subcontractor space to then working client side, obviously, for on the residential side, but also on the data center side? What have there been any significant differences that have benefited you or that you found particularly challenging between the two different types of organizations?
I think that both experiences are fundamental, and if I could give a personal advice, mix experiences. Try different type of projects, try different roles and companies at the early stage of the career, because each company, each organization, each project has something to give you. Okay, so at the contractor side, obviously you go to more into the detail of things. Even as a commercial person, you need to understand about engineering and drawings and processes, because behind each cost, there is a quantity and the rate and the subcontractor, and obviously the skill sets for management of multiple disciplines is developing, because from the grounds, because when you're on a main GC and you manage, let's say, 30 subcontractors for a big contract, it amounts to 100 people, let's say 150. And then when it comes to a developer side, I would say that, yes, I'm leading the teams, but I have more space to also develop strategies, to review contracts, to take my space and improve processes, and also see myself also growing through my own role. So to be more focused on what I want to achieve through my role. On a personal level and as a leader. So as a conclusion, I would say that working for a GC is very valuable and fundamental, especially for the early stages of the career. It can give so much knowledge, and then jumping to a developer side gives a more holistic overview of the things. Gives the opportunity for more leadership, innovation, certain decisions, and so on. Yeah.
And do you feel that you're then in a stronger position, a better position, where you are currently because of that experience previously? Actually, you kind of you understand that context, you understand what their problems are, what their where their pinch points are and their challenges, and what they're probably looking to try and achieve, and all of those sorts of things, and understanding that then from on the other side of the fence now puts you in a kind of in a better in a place where you can use that constructively.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that I was always mentioning to myself: do not rush to change jobs for a better salary or for a more fancy job description, position, or for a more senior position. For me, the first 10 years of a career are critical on knowledge and skill sets build up. So I would advise a graduate, let's say, go for the role that gives you more skills, and then opportunities will come, because there are opportunities out there. The most important is that we are able to manage the situation at any time and to maintain our role, because quality and at work, I mean, and satisfaction with what we are doing first comes from us. We set the ceiling for our expected quality of work, and for me that's always a priority. And yes, as you mentioned, from having the GC's experience, now doesn't only give me technical knowledge and ability to manage better variation account, but it also comes to empathy and understanding, trying to wear others people's shoes, to fit in others' shoes. okay, that there is a lot of pressure when you work at the general contractor site, and we have to show understanding, to be supportive, to try to improve processes, communication, agendas, and from a client side point of view, to make the team work more efficiently. Yeah.
Did you, interesting that as you've moved into leadership, and when I follow you on LinkedIn, I can see you in, that leadership and leading with empathy are real subjects that resonate with you.
Mm.
Did that come naturally, or were you mentored through that transition? How easy did you find it to move into that leadership position?
I think it comes naturally when when I assess my career path and what I would like to become, and in an environment with so much multicultural background, and when we expect people to be efficient, number one priority is to make them happy at workplace. So in reality, my priority is not if the answer that I will give is always correct. I try to give correct answers, okay? What is important for me is that I respond to messages and emails as soon as possible to make sure that the other side feels supported and not ignored, okay? So yes, I think it's something that comes naturally from our own needs and realization of how I would be more efficient throughout this career path. And obviously, I had the chance to have excellent leaders, and I found empathy and support. And yeah, even when I moved here from UK, my director back then picked up the phone. He spoke to then my director in Germany. He gave a good referral and things like that. So I always try to pick up the, let's say, positive attitude and how I would like people to behave and to manage me, and try to be at that path. Yeah.
It's that collaboration, isn't it, as well? I mean, you kind of talk back to, or think back to what you mentioned in Greece when you were working there, and that idea of teamwork that you kind of was kind of ingrained in you there, and I guess where you are now, it's that teamwork, it's that collaboration, but looking at through that that lens of empathy, putting yourself in other people's shoes, and using those sorts of skills to try and work collaboratively together to bring the best out of everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's empathy and collaboration, because in reality, there is no perfect skill set, and we are always a team. And as a lead, I'm there and I'm trying to identify strengths and weaknesses, let's say, if we can call them weaknesses, and to be there to support the team on the gaps and weaknesses, not to micromanage or to take to blame. So yes, when we collaborate means that we work together to deliver, but we also work together on imagine everyone's future and how he or she would like to drive himself or herself to that future. Yeah.
And the other thing you mentioned before was about that measure of success being about learning something. And I would imagine, again, now in the DC space, with the pace at which things are evolving, and the deadlines you're up against and the challenges that are thrown at you along the way, again, I imagine that sort of mindset where you have to kind of be a problem solver and look for the solutions and be curious as to how you might be able to find that, and again work with your team to sort of do that. From a technical skill set, if you put that to one side for a moment, having that kind of inbuilt as well, I imagine, is an important thing.
Yes, 100%. So this the answer to this question actually goes back to, and links many different spots that we made during our conversation. So when I was a kid, my dad used to crop from a newspaper an article every day, and he was asking me to read, understand, and take an outcome, a brief outcome with me. Okay. So this is something that I never stopped doing until now. So every day I define 2 or 3 subjects that I'm not 100% clear with, or a technical definition. For example, what is a CBT or a COP, okay? And I go back home, or I take 30 minutes, I Google, I read, I open a drawing. So the knowledge doesn't have a cap. We learn every day. And for me, homework, it doesn't mean that we spend all our free time on work, let's say, but doing some homework with coffee, especially at the early stage of the career, is critical, because sometimes during work we just want to deliver, we jump from one call to the other, while in reality 30 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, reading something, or even translating something, because now I even work in German sometimes, adds something on the process. Okay, yeah.
That's an incredible way to hone somebody's thirst for knowledge and ability to kind of cut through unknown subjects that you can really form so early on in. That's making me feel very inadequate as a parent.
Yeah,
I
Must
think
get a
this
newspaper on the way home.
I think this was my parents' way to mitigate my non-willingness to read books, because, you know, sometimes people that are really addicted to maths, they don't like reading books, so they had to kind of
the
balance
challenge I've got at
the two
home. Yes,
it's a
things.
good
Yeah,
tip, because
exactly.
yeah, my son seems to be leaning in that direction. So maybe that's yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
write that down.
And there's something actually that with when I have a graduate or a person that I'm trying to work with as a mentor, is something that I always adopted as a in the development plan. Every week I give 2 terms, and or I share 2 websites with them. Go and read these, check about this new announcement or things like that. Yeah, like a study exercise.
It gets you looking outward, doesn't it? So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's why then when things like, you know, if you're talking about things like empathy, it's more readily available because you're already used to looking at things from lots of different perspectives.
Yes, and at the end of the day, we don't all have access to the same exposure, to the same experiences and sources of knowledge. Okay. I think that if I could give an advice, is that share your background and knowledge and skills, and then even one good thing that will be returned back to you, it's an add to your own skill sets.
I think you've been a brilliant guest to kind of highlight to people the range of career development and opportunities, whether it's by geography or by discipline or, you know, by sector, that the data center world can offer somebody. And we're really thankful for you taking the time to talk to us. Thaleia, thank you so much.
Thank you too a
Thaleia.
lot. It was a pleasure.